Hi everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Today's video is one of my favorites. It's where I take all of your favorite DIYs, the ones that got the most positive comments, and I put them all in a video for you to enjoy and try out the next year. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. So some of you may remember me finding these at the Dollar Tree, the Hot Wheel tracks. I said I had some ideas for them. This actually wasn't one of the ideas, but I am always coming up with new stuff. So this is what I'm doing with them for this craft. So here's another placemat. Love it. Think it's so cute. I wanted to try and make a really high-end looking frame for it. So I'm taking foam board here and I'm leaving about 2 inches around the edge, just extra. I knew it was wider than what I needed, but I wanted to make sure I didn't cut it short. And I'm going to glue the vinyl mat down on top of the foam board. So now we're making 45-degree cuts here. And I don't know if I got a dead pair of shears, but I can't get them to cut the tracks. It was not clamping down tight enough, and this is my first experience with those shears. So someone comment down below, let me know if that's only meant to cut thicker wood and they're not supposed to clamp all the way down, or if I got a dead pair, because they definitely were not cutting. But it's okay because my sharp scissors finished it off. So as you can see, we have a beautiful frame. Look at that. They are perfect for a frame. So I went ahead and took some of the Waverly chalk paint, again in plaster, and I painted these. They did require 2 coats, but here's the thing, guys. I would not recommend you hand paint these. There's all little nooks and crannies, and the paint kind of gathers in them. You can see it right there. I highly recommend you take these out and spray paint them. The spray paint would stick better. You won't get any of the paint pooling anywhere, and it would come up perfect. It still came up totally cute. You can't notice it because I just make sure I took my little craft knife and went and cut the little pooling paint out of there the best I could, and where I couldn't, I tried to do other details so it would just distract from that. But it would have been a lot easier if I just took it out and spray painted it. So next time, it was raining that day and that's why I didn't do it, but next time I will definitely do that. So I just used regular old school glue. It was cheap school glue from Dollar General. Kind of wanted to experiment with it to see how good that glue was, and it's holding up beautiful. Everything's fine. And I glued this down on top of the foam board, and this is while the frame is drying with the second coat. And now we're just going to go ahead and start gluing the frame down. It's that simple. You're gluing it on top of the foam board. So I started by gluing it under the first ridge there and then the second ridge later. And then when it was dry, I just took my craft knife and then trimmed all of the foam board off a little bit at an angle under the frame so you can't see it from the edge. If it's hanging on the wall, you won't see the edge of the foam board. And then I do end up taking some spackling and filling in the little edges there, because you can see the edges right there, wall repair, that's spackling. I didn't like, you can leave it, it doesn't look bad, but I just wanted it to look more finished, and I didn't like the way there was that little crack there. But this is a great Hot Wheel hack, I guess. Great hack. These make fantastic looking frames in my opinion. You can spray paint them white with a primer, a really strong adhesive type spray paint, and then you can take wax and you can stain them if you want and make them look like real wood. You can paint them another color. You can do so many different things with these. Now, I did have a little overlap with hot glue, so I just took some tweezers. Because this is vinyl, it doesn't stick. I did take some tweezers and just peel the hot glue away, and if it took some of the paint with it, I touched it up. But we're all done, and I think this came up super nice. For this next project, I'm using a vinyl placemat from Dollar General and a vinyl placemat from the Dollar Tree. I just thought that would be neat to combine them because I found 2 very similar ones at both stores, but they were complementary, and I thought I can do something with this in a combination act. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm starting off by just trimming them down a little bit here. You just draw a straight line, and I'm trying to catch the words, or as much of the words as I can. I couldn't do it with the other placemat, totally, I did lose some of the word, but I still think it looks fantastic. Even if you cut into some of the words, it's got that patchwork thing going on, so anything goes. So now we're using the Dollar Tree signs. You can find these in the Crafters Square section. They come in brown, black, and white. I'm using a brown one, and I took a handsaw and just cut these down really fast because they're kind of like cardboard. They're not cardboard, but they're, you know, the MDF border. I like it because it's easier to cut than wood, and it's just as firm. So I went ahead and used Mod Podge to glue, you know, I'm covering the sides of this, and then when it was dry, I took my craft knife, also from the Dollar Tree, and I'm using that just to trim. Now, to be honest, I have really super sharp scissors, I have to be honest, and I did do the rest of this with sharp scissors. I actually thought I felt like I had more control, and it came out just as straight. The reason I didn't use scissors initially is because I was worried it would come out crooked, but it did come out just as straight. So if you have sharp scissors, just use those. And now on the end, so I have like two sides that are equal, and I did this by eye. I'm so sorry I didn't measure it. I just kind of tried to make a proportional box, so I did it by eye. I would guess the end was probably about 5 inches, and then whatever was left over on the board. You know, there's 2 boards total that I used here. That's what ended up being the sides. But here I took a combination of both placemats on the ends. I thought that would be neat. So I'm using a little bit from one placemat, and then the bottom half, the little strip right there, is the other placemat. So I just thought that was kind of neat, and it would tie it in. And I did tape them. Please tape it with masking tape or whatever tape you have. Well, masking tape didn't remove any of the print, but it really helped for measuring and keeping everything in place when I was gluing, to have those 2 little pieces at the bottom taped. So I set those aside to dry, and when they were dry, I went ahead and took the Surebonder hot glue. Again, this is supposed to be for all kinds of materials, wood, glass. It is a very strong glue. I've been very satisfied with it, because sometimes with hot glue you can have trouble with temperature changes or humidity. It'll suddenly pop off. This has been wonderful for not doing that. And I'm just gluing all of these sides together to form a box. I'm reinforcing the inside of the seam right here so it doesn't come apart. And then I'll just take my Dollar Tree little spatula that's made for makeup and mask. It's in the makeup section. It's made for mask, I think. Right there, the pink one. And I'm just going to go ahead and smooth it down the best I can so it's not lumpy in there. Now, I will say that these pink ones at the Dollar Tree that have a spatula on either end are much firmer and more similar to the original one that made such a big hit 3 years ago in the crafting scene. Now, here's the stakes from the Dollar General. I had made a video on those, and I had bought about 20 of them. They are great for crafting. If you find them at the Dollar General, they're only $1 and easy to cut, lickety split, same saw. I just cut them down. I'm taking a nail file now just to file off any of the little rough edges. And now I'm using some of the antique wax, watered down. All I did was put a little wax in that tray there, and then use spray water in a spray bottle. It's those little spray bottles again in the Crafters Square at Dollar Tree. And I just squirted it to make it more watery, and it makes a beautiful stain. But you can use paint watered down. You can use a regular stain, whatever you guys like. You can use it. It will work. This is just what I wanted to work with. I like how slippery it is. There's also a water-based acrylic stain that I love. It's down below in my description box from Amazon. That works wonderful too. No scent, no smell, lasts forever. I just want to use my wax up right now, but I will be buying that again. And then I went ahead and for me on this box, I decided to go with foam board for the bottom. So what I've done in the past is I have used Dollar Tree signs to put on the bottom, but they tend to be really, really heavy, and I don't want to see any edges. I want it to look like it's store-bought. So I want to keep the bottom light, and I want to keep it higher than the edge. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. And I'm taking some Dollar Tree material that I found in the craft section, and we're just going to glue it on to cover the foam board. And all I did was wrap this up like a present. You can see the edges right there. I just tucked it in just like you're wrapping a gift. So this is how I did it. This is how I overcome the problem of things not looking store-bought, I guess. I went ahead and took some of the towering blocks and I glued them all around the edge, and then we're going to sit the bottom on top of that. Now you can take a little bit of thin cardboard or a thin Dollar Tree sign and push it up against the other side of those blocks to cover that if you want. I don't care because no one's going to see it, but if that bothers you, you can cover it. Just tuck them up a little higher to make sure that when you glue the board on, it's above the line, because you don't want, these boards don't look good when the edges are showing. They just don't. So we're covering the edge with a vinyl. Now we're covering the edge with the actual little stakes, the wood stakes. They're going to be the legs. You can see I'm doing it here. I'm sorry it's out of camera view a little bit, but I'm just gluing it down right there. That covers the edge of the MDF board. The bottom you can cover it in another way, and if you, again, tuck it up higher than the bottom, don't glue it where you see the edges. And then to handle the edges on the top, I'm just taking some of the furniture pens from the Dollar Tree. I did accidentally use mahogany when I very first did it, so now I'm going over with the walnut one because I wanted it to be a darker brown. And that's it. Look how beautiful this came out. It's perfect for magazines, towels, flowers. I'm going to stage it with some flowers because I don't have enough magazines right now, but it's beautiful. I found these really heavyweight, I think they're a resin, but they have wood in the center. They have wood in them definitely, and they're really heavy and make great quality DIY material to work with. And I'm starting off with some wood glue. I'm going to glue these together like you see me doing here. And of course I'm using some hot glue for an instant hold as well, so I can keep working. And then I'm using 2 of the Dollar Tree little window box houses, and I'm going to glue them on either end like that. Then I'm going to give it a coat of white acrylic paint. This isn't chalk paint this time. This is just a white acrylic paint. It's by Apple Barrel. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the inside as well. And then I'm going to let it dry and give it a second coat. This part was a little time consuming because obviously you have to be really careful so you don't get paint all over your chalkboard, although if you do, I guess you could wipe it really quick with a baby wipe or a wet paper towel. I just went really slow with a small flat brush, and I wanted it all to match, so I did it on both sides. And of course, this is a perfect crate for flowers or towels or anything you want to store in it. But I'm making this for me for bills. I have certain bills that if they're not kind of right in front of me on the counter, I will forget about them, or just even appointments. So I thought I would keep this in my kitchen on my counter for that purpose. It looks a little nicer than just having papers laying all over your countertop when you need to keep them in front of you. And I wrote bills on one side, and then I thought on the other side, but first coffee. That's always a cute little saying for the kitchen. And I want to show you guys how easy it is too. I'm writing with a chalk pen, and it's super easy to erase it. I just sprayed water, wiped it with a paper towel, and boom, you're good to go. As you can see right there, you just have to make sure it's wet. So I wet my paper towel a little bit for the last E right there. But I love this. It's working out great, and it's already helped me with a couple little errands I had to do. For this project, I just grabbed a Dollar Tree wooden crate right there, and I am choosing the color Plaster in Waverly chalk paint. You can paint this any color you want. I just want it to be a nice, soft, creamy white color. And we're going to give this one coat because it only needs one coat with the chalk paint. You definitely don't need 2. But this would also look pretty if you had like a whitewash on it too. So if you do have a thinner paint like Apple Barrel or any acrylic paint, because they're not usually as thick as chalk paint, and you saw a little bit of wood grain through, it still would look really nice. I actually don't think you would see wood grain through because I have used the Apple Barrel white paint on wood before, and it's pretty good. But there are other paints obviously out there, and you can purposely water down paint too to make it look like a whitewash. So we're just giving it one coat on the sides, the bottom, inside, everywhere. We're just making the whole thing a nice creamy white. I chose this fabric for this DIY, and I feel like maybe it came off wrong on the press there with the colors because it's like an aquamarine. I love the print, but it's not the right color green. It should be more like a St. Patrick's Day green. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but everything looks like when my printer doesn't have enough ink. So I was wondering if this was the way it was supposed to come out. But the fabric that I really wanted to use, that I originally had in mind, was this navy blue small check that I ended up using for a previous DIY, so I didn't have it available, but I think I am going to go back and switch this up and recover it with the other material. But for now, we're using this one, so I still want to show you my idea. You just cut a little square out here, and you're basically making a little mini pillowcase. You're just taking your hot glue, and you're going to glue the bottom, the sides, and then you're going to leave just the top open so that you can put some stuffing inside it. And don't forget to do that with the outside of your fabric facing each other so that when you turn it inside out like a little pillowcase, your seams will be nice and neat and you'll have the right side up. So I had some polyfiber fill that was like batting for quilts. It was flat, and word to the wise, it is better to leave it flat. If I had to do it again, I would just fold it on top of each other, because it comes in like a flat piece, like a quilt. I would just fold it and fold it and fold it and make it really, really puffy, and then just push the whole thing inside my little mini pillowcase and glue it down, and that way I wouldn't deal with any lumps or bumps whatsoever. But we're making a little pin cushion, you guys. I don't have one, and I need one, and I don't have any pins because I didn't have a pin cushion to put my pins. So now we're all ready to go. I have a little pin cushion, and I think this is a great idea to do with the Dollar Tree fabric. It came up so cute. Let me know what you guys think. This next one was a lot of fun. I have been seeing the wine glass little vinyl placemats, it seems like forever since I've been shopping at the Dollar Tree, and I thought, what can I do with this? These are it's difficult to craft with those. I had a couple ideas. I was going to make a wine box at some point to like store your wine bottles in on your counter, but what I ended up deciding I thought would be cute, especially since fall's coming up, is to do a pumpkin. These are total fall colors. They're warm, they're burgundies and browns and orange and gold, and I want to make a pumpkin for my kitchen. And I thought, well, how neat. This is kind of tying in like a kitchen theme because it's got the wine glasses and it looks like a kitchen type placemat, and it's going to be for fall. So I went ahead and did a pumpkin. I freehanded it. I had a really hard time getting the other side even. So as you saw, I cut out half the pumpkin. Then I took a piece of computer paper, put it down, traced that half on the paper, and then I got a nice even, I just put it on the other side and traced the piece of paper, and then I got a more symmetrical pumpkin. Look how cute that is, though. I was so pleased with this one. I really wasn't sure how it was going to come out, and I thought, well, you perfect little kitchen pumpkin when I was all done. That's perfect. Especially if you have like those little stands like my first DIY where I put the plate in it. It's like a plate holder. It would be so cute on a kitchen counter during the fall season. So I'm using cardboard. You guys love when I do my cardboard crafts, so I thought I would throw it in here. I am using 2 of them because this cardboard, it was really clean and nice. It was on the inside of a package, but it was a little thinner, so I went ahead and used 2 of them, and I'm just going to glue those 2 pieces of cardboard together to create it, make it more sturdy. And there I go. So we glue those 2 together, and then we're going to glue the vinyl placemat on top. So I've talked about this in previous videos. When you work with cardboard, at least for me, it will just look cheap and nasty if you don't cover the sides. You have to cover the sides. It's mandatory, you guys. If you want the craft to look really nice in your home. If you don't care, it's okay too, but this is just my thing. I have to cover it. So this decorative twine that you can find at the Dollar Tree was perfect for this. I went ahead and I covered the entire pumpkin with this decorative twine ribbon. Here's some pretty fall ribbon that I found at the Dollar Tree. It's perfect for autumn. And all of that ribbon is from the Dollar Tree. And if you watched my first Dollar Tree with me, shop with me video for this summer, that little netting right there that I'm holding right there, I thought that would be perfect for an autumn craft, and here we go, we're using it. Now I'm making something called a messy bow here. If you want to see the full tutorial, I do have a bow video. It's linked down below in my description box. It's time stamped, so you don't have to watch the whole video if you don't want to. You can just look for the bow that you're looking for, click it. You know, it's in the top pinned comment there. You can just click the time and it will take you straight to that part of the video. And you can look for messy bow. So what is an autumn craft without raffia? Everyone knows I love my raffia at autumn. I always add it in there because for me that is just kind of the thing. I love raffia, and it's especially appropriate during fall and autumn crafts. So I'm just taking a little bit of the raffia. I got this raffia on Amazon. It's really nice. If you can find them, you can also use the hula skirts from the Dollar Tree, but I'm just making a little raffia bow there. I'm going to trim it up kind of haphazardly there so it looks nice and rustic, which I love, especially during fall. And that's it. We are going to put a hanger on the back of this. I kind of regretted that I did that because I think I am going to want to put it in one of those plate holders instead and put it on my kitchen counter, so I might take the hanger off. But if you want to hang it up, what I did is I took some of the Dollar Tree nautical rope, I went ahead and hot glued it on the back, and then I used some duct tape to cover that while the glue was still hot so it would all kind of meld together. I usually use masking tape for this, but they don't have the wide masking tape right now at Dollar Tree, and I do like the tape to be wide, so duct tape works just fine too. It's just to reinforce it so it's not just relying on the hot glue, and I've never had trouble with this falling off. You can even put it outside. It works really, really well. And I'm just trimming the edges there to round it out so that the tape, you know, you don't see it on the edge, and we're all done. For this one, I started off thinking I was going to use the inside of the window box to put some of the Dollar Tree vinyl here that I found, and I ended up just seeing it like finishing the back of the craft because I usually don't do that, although with small ones like this I sometimes do if they're going to sit somewhere. Like I have a center island in the middle of my kitchen, so things definitely need to be finished in the back if I'm going to put them on there. But I started off putting this on and dry brushing it. That's a little trick to kind of get rid of the shiny look so it doesn't look like plastic. And then I'm using a base. Also, this wood base came from the Dollar Tree, and I gave them both a coat of just white acrylic apple barrel paint and blow drying now in between. But what ended up happening was I still just liked, even though I dry brushed and it wasn't shiny, there was still some little lines and bubbles. It just didn't look like wood. So the backside is partially wood. It's like a pressed particle board, I think, of some kind. It's not MDF board or MBF board, sorry. It's more like a particle board, but you know, obviously closer to wood. So in the end, I just flipped this craft around. I did that with a couple in this video and used the back side. The paint adheres beautifully, so I encourage you guys to do it. It's really pretty. And again, the little recessed back, right, because it's a window box, provides a great natural hanging thing. You don't have to glue any string on or screw anything in to hang these things if you want to. I want this on a stand for a shelf that I have, but the hanging option is definitely awesome. So I'm starting off by giving this, you can kind of see already kind of distressed paint job here because I want some of that woodsy look, because it is like a wood, to peek out from the back. And now I'm going to take these Dollar Tree little seed planter starter little pots. It's a plant pot you put inside a pot to start seeds, and they have great texture. They're nice and light. I love the way they look. I'm not gonna lie, I got an idea off of Pinterest a long time ago where I saw someone do something beautiful. I still want to do that, but she used these and I was really impressed with the way they looked once they were painted. So the color I painted mine was antique parchment from apple barrel paint. This is all apple barrel paint unless otherwise stated. And I'm just taking some of the Dollar Tree lace, some of the Dollar Tree decorative twine, and I made a little bow by just making a bigger lace bow and then tying the two together using some Dollar Tree twine. So these little seed planter pots are excellent because you can cut them. They look kind of heavy, right? I mean, plastic, if we use a plastic cup, we have to kind of either consider putting baking soda in paint to slap it on and make it have some texture so it doesn't look like cheap plastic. So this kind of skips all those steps because these little guys have lots of texture. I think they kind of look almost like concrete or cement. They just look like they're heavy. The illusion of being heavy. So here I thought I turned the camera on so I missed this part, but all I did was just put Spanish moss inside and then some lavender from Walmart, and I glued the bow on the front. That was it. So you didn't miss anything that will, interfere with the tutorial. You would totally know how to make this without that clip. And now I'm using pewter gray on the edges. Now do this first. I looked at it, I stood back and looked and I thought that looks like a total whiteout. That is way too much white. So I went ahead and took some pewter gray. It was a little too heavy in some areas, so I'm just using a wet Kleenex and wiping it down. I'm going to show you how that works out. It actually comes out really pretty, but obviously you would want to do this part before you put in the Spanish moss and the flowers, but it didn't make it that much harder. I mean, either way, it works. But I love the way that this came out. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's so romantic. This is my inspiration piece on Anthropologie, and it is an inspiration piece, so it's not a dupe. Dupe is short for duplicate, so I don't show it at the end because I want you guys just to get the feel for what I'm going for. I liked the colors, I liked the height, and when I was looking at high-end decor online, I saw there were other versions of this. Some bottles are tall, and some have tall, like spouts, or I'm not sure what that's called, but like the part on the top. So it got my creative juices flowing, you guys. So I used 3 different kinds of bottles in different shapes and sizes. And I'm using rolls here now that are from the center of like a heavyweight foil. These are super, super thick ones, the kind that you could actually hurt someone when you hit them. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but like it was hard to cut even with a brand new craft knife. I had to saw and saw. They are super thick. You'll see it when they stand up. They're not flimsy. And the trick is they have to fit over the top of the bottle perfectly when you press it down to the base. So I start off by measuring them, and of course I'm making them in cascading heights with tall, medium, and short. And I'm using joint compound to join these two things together, on all of the bottles. I'm going to join that cardboard piece down to the bottle and make it look like it's one connected piece. And yes, you can use spackling for this craft as well. It's just I have some joint compound I haven't used in a while, and I thought it would be nice to use it up. This is the next day when it's dried, and I just lightly, ever so lightly, just sand off any areas that are sticking up that look fake. And I did have some cracking just on the small one, no big deal. For this one, because I wanted it to dry quicker, I did use spackling and I just filled it in, and we are good to go. Since this is glass, I am using the Kilz primer again, K-I-L-Z, and I do need 2 coats of this primer on each of the bottles. I decide to go ahead and use the color Granite Gray by Apple Barrel Paint here to cover the entire bottles up. Now you'll notice I didn't use primer on top of the backling or joint compound, either one. It wasn't necessary because I knew the paint was going to adhere, but I thought that this would be a good base color to kind of get the look going that I wanted. And it's not going to be exactly like I said, it's not going to be exactly like the Anthropologie piece. It's more with the Anthropologie piece, I liked the color blend, or color combos. I liked the heights, you know, how they were cascading. I liked that part. So here I am mixing up some white acrylic paint with a little bit of water because the look I'm going for is a streaky look. So I knew if I mixed my paint up with a little bit of water, I would get where it kind of trickled down in rivets almost and gave me a look that would help, I guess, as an under. I've explained in previous videos, it's usually many different processes, or at least more than one process to get a look that you're going for. So I knew I needed my base color to kind of have a look and dimension of its own when I go to do the next step, so that it gives more dimension to that step, if that makes sense. And it just adds to the whole final look, and that's what makes your crafts look really, really high end. So now I'm taking a sponge and I'm cutting 3 different sponges in 3 different shapes here, and this is so I can sponge my colors on. So now I'm using pewter gray from Apple Barrel Paint, and these are all Apple Barrel Paint except for the terracotta color from the company that is now out of business, but you can use any color combination you want. I'm making this for my daughter's home because they have a coastal beach. You know, we live by the beach, and they kind of have this boho coastal beach thing going on in their home, and I knew that these bottles would look absolutely gorgeous on her mantle, so that's what I'm going for. But you of course can use any color combination you want. The next color I choose is just a granite gray. I believe that's what that's called, but any gray would do. And again, I'm color washing. I'm tapping this on, and you can see me kind of going up and down into the other colors on purpose. And then you'll see me take the sponge and kind of drag it down too, so that you get those streaks. There I go. This is something that you're just playing with and kind of making all the colors blend in, and it's definitely uneven. There is no right or wrong here. You just do it by eye, and you keep messing around with it until you get the look you like. And if you don't like it, you can always paint it again and start over. Just have fun. So now I'm using the color gray again, the first color that I painted, the very first one. And I'm adding white to it because, as you can see there, the blue that I used, I have a blue that's kind of like that coastal blue from Waverly, but I just felt it was like a little too dark for the color I was going, so I used a gray blue color, added white to it, and we're just doing the color blending again. And I took a baby wipe to blend it upwards and downwards, because as these colors go up, I want them to be lighter and softer and very, very muted and blended. So you can see the bottom is very textured. Then we have the blended gray, we have the blended terracotta color, and then the soft blue that kind of goes up into a light gray. And I didn't show you on the top lid, I also did the same thing, blending downwards with the that was a pewter gray right there. And then I'm taking an iridescent pearlescent silver paint by Folk Art, and I'm going over the entire thing with that silver paint to make it iridescent at the end here. You'll see me do it. The camera's not picking it up so well here. I'm trying to show you how it's shiny now and iridescent, but that's what I do to the top stems to make them look really, really high end. Last but not least, I used a gray color to paint the insides of the tops. I took all 3 bottles outside and painted it in a glossy finish, 2 coats, so that they look like ceramic, but this craft came up absolutely stunning, and I hope the camera does it justice. I found this vinyl mat at the Dollar Tree, and I'm using one of the little Dollar Tree rounds that I found at Valentine's Day. You can find those on and off all year round though with the seasons. And I'm just going to lay it down and trace this out so that it fits hopefully pretty even right in the center with this imagery. Then I'm cutting it out, and you'll notice it's not perfectly covering. There's a little flat area at the top. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that later. But I'm using this craft bond glue that I actually bought by accident at Walmart. It's the extra strength one, and it's really, really good if you want to glue down things that are hard to glue down that maybe a normal glue stick wouldn't handle. That glue stick handles it like a champ. So for the top part, I just cut out a little extra cream colored vinyl off the scrap pieces that I had left. And for this part, I did use Mod Podge. I did that because at the time I felt like I needed it. The glue stick sometimes you don't have as much wiggle room. It will start to dry really quick because it's dry. It is a drier glue, so it's a little sticky, and I wanted some time to wiggle that around and make sure that I got it really close to the seams, so that it didn't have a big line in between as much as possible. This plate is also a Dollar Tree find. It's one of their charger plates. I love these for DIYs and home decor because of the little, they're not engravings. I guess it's that little design on the edge there. They look like little tiny mini beads. They're like little nubs or something. I love them, and I love to bring them out on purpose. So I'm painting just the edge because that's all you're going to see with the color plaster in Waverly chalk paint, and now I'm using pewter gray from Apple Barrel paint. Now when I first start doing this, I'm really disappointed. Do you see to the left there? It's way too heavy. I start getting it right now. This is at this point it's a very dry brush technique. I just want to hit the top of that design just to bring that design out. So I do end up trying to take a baby wipe there. I'm rubbing it off, trying to see if that works. It doesn't work. It kind of leaves a shadow and it doesn't match the rest of them. So ultimately I do end up taking more of the Waverly chalk paint and plaster, and you can see me doing it right there. I'm just repainting over. It's a wonderful thing about painting, you guys. You can just repaint. I'm repainting over the edge there so I can get a nice clean slate to have another chance at this again. So I go ahead and finish dry brushing the whole edge, and it looks good enough. It's okay if some of them are a little darker. That's nice. It adds a little character, but you don't want it to be extreme where you're getting too much paint in between the little bubbles or whatever. Bobbles? I don't know what those are. If somebody knows what those are, comment down below. So here's the final result with the top part of the vinyl that I put on this round. It did have a little seam, and it turns out that the color plaster in the Waverly chalk paint is a perfect match for this vinyl placemat. So I just added a little paint inside the seam, and that took care of it. You don't see it anymore. And now I'm using some hot glue. Now this is Surebonder hot glue, which is not that expensive. You can get it at Walmart, on Amazon. It's really not that expensive, and it claims to go ahead and hold glass and plastic and wood. It's like a multi-purpose glue, and I'm really pleased with it so far. It does. It's been holding great. I haven't had it fall off, so I just wanted to pass that on. Then I just glue that round on top of the plate, and I am now using some ribbon I got at Temu. It's little buffalo check ribbon there, and I'm hot gluing on it. I was really torn whether I should put a bow or not, but I just felt like that spot was empty, so I went with the bow. Let me know what you think, but this is in my kitchen, and I absolutely love this. I took it outside, went to my to-go-to little clear acrylic Mod Podge spray, and here it is. Love the navy blue plaids and gingham prints, I guess buffalo check and cream fabric that they have at the Dollar Tree. So I went ahead and grabbed some, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with this. Unfortunately, they don't have any red, like ticking stripe or any kind of striped red. Well, they didn't at my Dollar Tree. They didn't have anything red. I would have loved if they had had something in, to complement this, not more buffalo check, but maybe ticking stripe red material. That would have been so pretty, but we're going to work with what we have. So same drill, you guys, plenty of Mod Podge, nice and thick. And this time I did a little bit of a cheat. I thought, what would happen if I took this Elmer's glue? It was that spray purple glue, the container was empty, and I figured the sprayer was meant for thick glue. That's what was coming out of it. So why not put some Mod Podge in there with a tiny bit of water and see if we can spray it out? And it worked perfect. And then it allowed me to use my hands with my gloves to smear that in. See, I'm spraying it right there. And because I watered it down just a little bit, it actually works great. This was another little hack, you guys. It's a great way to apply Mod Podge and get it, you don't have to wash any brushes. You don't have to wash any sponges. And I got it down in the grooves. And when it dries on cloth, you don't see it. So it's not like you have to have nice, smooth brush strokes in one direction or something. You're not going to see it when it dries. So I go back to the sponge here, but that spray bottle, if you find it, it's the purple disappearing Elmer's spray-on glue. It definitely works. So we're just going to finish it off here with a sponge, and then when it's dry, we're going to do the same thing again. We're just going to cut it off, and my sharp scissors work perfect. You can use a file if you want. You can use the craft knife or utility knife if you want, just anything sharp to cut it off. And then we're going to end up with 3 stars. So like I said, I was hoping they would have something in red because I wanted the farmhouse look, the country look, definitely during 4th of July. And I decided to go ahead and do my own ticking stripe or something similar. I just want something like that, even if it wasn't identical. I ended up not being able to do, or I made the decision not to do really tiny ticking stripes, because at first I thought I'll cover this whole star with little tiny ticking stripes across, but I was worried about the paint bleeding, I guess, and I did it on a little scrap piece off camera, and I just remember thinking it's going to work better if I use thicker lines and a bigger stripe. So we're just going to do one big ticking stripe down the center of this star. It ends up looking awesome, and here I go. And I love doing this part. It is so satisfying when you pull it off and you have a nice clean line. But that's it. I just pull the tape off, and I decide it's not quite thick enough because the star is so big. I do end up adding just one more red line on either side to do the final, ticking stripe. And here I'm just taping the tape right along the edge of the original line. You can see it right there. And I'm covering the little skinny line that I just made completely. And then we're just doing like a medium line. I didn't go for the big thick line. I did a medium line. I was still a little worried that the blue would overpower the red. So I do decide to add a little more red to this star by going around the edge and just distressing it using the red paint. And then I'm just going to attach it together with hot glue. Now, someone asked me what I thought of Gorilla Glue sticks. And I thought, I don't know, I've never used a Gorilla Glue stick or the Gorilla Glue gun. So I went ahead and purchased one. I did. And we are using them now, and we're going to see how they hold up. But so far, so good. And I'm just using the craft sticks on the back, just 3 of them, just to give it a little extra brace and support. We're using some of these wooden beads on some of the Dollar Tree twine. I'm just going to go ahead and attach it using more of this time the Gorilla Glue. Usually I use Sherbonder, but this is the Gorilla Glue. And then I'm going to cover that with duct tape for extra support. And that's it for the back. And then I'm using this Dollar Tree ticking stripe ribbon that I found in patriotic colors. I thought it was perfect. And if you watch my Shop With Me videos, you were with me when I found that gorgeous patriotic bow right there underneath. I glue this little wooden star on the center. It's a cutout that you can get at Walmart in a little kit for $1 in the craft section, and we're all done. And I end up hanging this in front of my eucalyptus wreath. I got so many compliments. I think it came up so nice. This next one is super fun. I've been waiting 2 years to make this, and I finally got around to doing it. So you're going to need one of those little dove containers from the Dollar Tree, one of the little mini planters that you find the succulents in from the Dollar Tree, and this nail polish holder from the Dollar Tree, and a black lid off of a drink. I got this off of a Halloween plastic cup from the Dollar Tree, and you just use the black lid part of it. If you have something similar and you can substitute it, go ahead. And we're going to need some towering blocks. So I glued 5 of the towering blocks together in rows, and once I had those 2 rows, I glue them together to form this square here. It's not a perfect square, but close to. And I'm using some hot glue to glue the little plant pot upside down. I did remove the foam on the inside. I do end up having to secure that with some Gorilla super glue. I'm just letting you know, once I started painting it, it kind of got wet and wanted to come apart there. So all of these pieces, including this one that I'm gluing right now, I do end up having to secure with the Gorilla super glue. So it needs a stronger hold than just hot glue. Even though I'm using a good hot glue, these just aren't great surfaces for hot glue. So there I go. There's the Gorilla super glue. I'm securing everything down. So if you've guessed already, we're making one of those little antique scales, and I saw that piece, that nail polish thing, and it was just the perfect shape. Everything was perfect. That's why it took me so long to make this, you guys, is I couldn't find anything that quite hit the mark for that, and I wanted to make one for my tiered tray. So this is small enough to put on a tier tray, and that's what it looks like when we're all done. And that thing on, that little nail polish thing, it's actually rubber, so it bounces around like a scale too. It's really cool. It came out really, really, really nice. So I painted the whole thing with black acrylic paint. I believe this is a multi-purpose paint, actually. Even though it's acrylic, it does say multi-purpose, so it covers and sticks to different surfaces. I gave it a quick blow dry, and now I'm using some of the Dollar Tree lightweight spackling, which I mixed with some paint. You can use chalk paint or acrylic paint, but it makes it creamier. The lightweight's a little bit too crumbly for me, and it makes it act more like what I'm used to as, I call it the normal spackling. It's just creamier. And I filled it in and then painted over the hole. Now I'm using some of their spray-on adhesive. It was plugged, so I poured it in and used a sponge, and I'm just gluing the face of this little scale down. I think I googled antique scale face and this came up. It's a free printable, and I'm going to go about aging and distressing this. I give it a dry brush of white paint all over. I do decide to do the base solid white and the very bottom of it more of a solid black, so I changed my mind a little bit. But the metal part, the top that's supposed to be, bouncing the scale, I choose a copper from Folk Art. It's one of the metallic paints there, and I make that look like a faux aged copper. And now I'm going to go back and paint the base a little bit more solid white. It's okay for me if some of the black shows through, because that's how an enamel would look if it was naturally wearing from age, and this is supposed to be an old scale. It's supposed to be an antique, but I decide that I wanted a little less distress, so I go back and put a little bit more black paint on the base. And then you'll see me in the front here around the clock. I'm going to be adding little marks to make it look like chipped enamel as well. I'm just touching up where I want the white paint not to show, but I absolutely love the way that this came out. It came out exactly the way I was envisioning it, and it's going on my tiered tray. For this project, I am using 3 of the Shadow Box houses, 2 paint sticks, and 2 of the Dollar Tree signs. I love these signs. I picked up about 25 of them. I'm going to buy more if I find them. I suggest you do the same. They are fantastic for DIYs because you really can make big signs with this by adding and putting them together, because they have those grooves. So this time the line where they join up is literally invisible. So you could put 4 of these together. You could I love them. So I do put 2 of them together. I'm using the paint sticks and putting them on the end to cover the holes to make it kind of like a palette sign a little bit. You can do a frame around this if you want. I didn't have to cut those paint sticks at all, by the way. They're a perfect fit. I buy paint sticks that don't have that little weird thing at the top there. They're down below in my description box. You'll see a link. I love them for crafting. I think they're a good deal. Some of them come warped, but you can still use them because sometimes you'll cut them. It's just, for me, the headache of having to cut off the top and having a shorter stick and then having little lines I had to fill in with wood putty or spackling was just, it wasn't worth it. So now I'm taking some of the apple barrel paint. I painted it on there and I was a little too generous, so a lot of it went down to the grooves, and I'm using a scoring tool from the Dollar Tree just to lift that up and smooth it out. It doesn't have to come out. I'm just spreading it so it doesn't look clumpy. Second coat, I'm a little more careful and I keep it on the top and paint it. And you do need, well, I needed a second coat. I do have some chalk paint. I just chose not to use it because I'm trying to use this one up, because once I open this paint, it tends to dry out. Well, I got a really huge one. So white is white, so it's fine. And now I'm using pewter gray to do a little dry brushing and distressing on this sign. I'm going to give it a quick blow dry, and then we're going to move on to cut out our template for this. Now I got some ticking stripe print. That's really pretty, isn't it? It's perfect for this craft, you'll see. And I have a free printable down below in my description box. So here's a little hack. I cut too much on the right hand side, so I just got another straight edge from the paper, cut it out, and taped it on with some masking tape to fix that so it kept my template perfect. And I cut everything in this entire video where I cut the paper out. I used that template, so it was a great fit. Now I'm using some of the antique wax this is antique wax by Folklore, and I water it down. Now I personally think that's really critical if you want a good glide factor. A glide factor is, as it suggests, it just makes things slippery, and it's way easy on raw wood. It just slips around and you use less. It's a great thing to do. You can use a baby wipe, but you might still have a little skid, because it kind of like grabs onto the raw wood. But if you do it that way, it's perfect. This is an applesauce cup. I just cut the rim off of it because I'm after that circle. I need a perfect circle for my wreath. I know right off the bat that if I want to make this look store-bought and make it look nice, it's very critical that the wreath at the top is like a perfect circle. And so the applesauce rim is free. It's perfect, and it gives me a nice guide for that. I also don't have anything on a vine, so I'm taking my boxwood. The boxwood I use is off of Amazon. You can get it down below in my description box. There's a link there, and it's a great deal. Sometimes it comes on sale for $7. I think I've even seen it go lower than $7, and you get quite a bit. Even at the full price, it's the cheapest boxwood I've been able to find so far that I like, that doesn't, stink overly strong of plastic fumes. So I love working with this one. But I just take hot glue, and again, this is a Surebonder glue, so it's really good glue, and I'm getting it all over the board there. I have to take some of it off, but I just glue it one by one. And then when I'm done gluing these one by one, I flip it over and I start to put some on the back in kind of the side so they curl around so it looks more like a natural wreath. Some great tools that I have found for crafting too is stuff that you would normally use for like your nails or some other purpose. I'm using tweezers from the Dollar Tree, and I also showed you that some of the boxwood does have some of that over, some of them have the plastic that goes over the edge a little bit. You can use either scissors to cut it off, and sometimes I use the tip of my glue gun to kind of melt it off, just so that I didn't have any of that hanging over. Now I'm using a glue stick. So here you can get the glue stick in these little shadow boxes really good up until the edge. You can't really get around the edge with the glue stick because the little wood frame's in the way, so make sure that you concentrate on putting the glue on the paper around the edge as well. So I do everywhere I can on the box, and then on the paper I make sure I go around the edges really, really well, and that works perfect. Now here I found this little wall creation thing here. Isn't it cute? It's called This Is Us, Our Story, Our Home, Our Love, but I'm just going to use the bottom words for this DIY. For this DIY, I got really lucky because they are recessed because they're shadow boxes. You can't really see the plastic where I'm hanging this on the wall at all because even when the light shines in sideways, the little wood frame blocks it from hitting the vinyl, so you can't see it at all. So I got really lucky. But I did choose to cut it as close as I could to the letters to try and reduce that, because at the time when I was making this, I didn't know I was going to have the light working in my favor with the little edges of the frame. So anyway, I switched this around. I put our love, our home, our story, because first I fell in love, then we made a home, and then that all became part of our beautiful story. Now I'm taking some Dollar Tree twine. I made a little bow, and I'm going to glue it on the top of the wreath. And to tie that in, I'm going to make 2 other little matching bows and glue them on either side of, we can see right there, I glued them to the right of the little words there for a nice little accent piece. And you guessed it, next we're just going to glue these houses down. That's it. And then I'm going to go ahead and distress the edges of this sign too, just a little bit. I'm going to use the Dollar Tree furniture pens for that. I love those for distressing. I used to do it with a paintbrush, and then they brought these furniture pens out, and they're not quite like a marker. They're a little bit more like if you take a wipe after you're rubbing them, they're more oily because they're meant for furniture. And normally I use masking tape for this part, but this is hanging a little close to where my fireplace is. So to give it extra strength, because this is hot glue and I was worried the heat might remelt the glue, I went ahead and used some duct tape and made a hanger from the back. And that's it. I love this. Let me know what you think. And I decided to cut some more of the stakes. You can see right there, they're cut, and there's little rough edges. I'm going to take my scissors to cut that off, and then I'll just use a little bit of sandpaper to further smooth the edge down a little bit. But I'm using 2 of those Dollar Tree signs again in black. There's the wood stakes again. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut my twine off the end. My first thoughts are, ooh, this will be a really awesome long tray. It'll have some of the shiplap type looking wood sticking out on either end. It'll look awesome. The handles will cover the holes. But I do end up invariably cutting these boards down because I feel the tray's a little too long. With the placemat, it just doesn't look quite right, and you'll see that later. But I'm taking some white acrylic paint. This is just white apple barrel paint, and I'm giving the wood a dry brush. Or it's not wood, it's the MDF board, but I'm giving it a dry brush. And then of course, to get these handles to match, I'm going to go ahead and paint them black, right? We have to start off with black, just like the sign. Once they're dry, we'll go ahead and do the dry brushing again with the white paint to get it to all come together and match. If your tray is just decorative, you can absolutely skip this part. I am actually going to use this tray, so I wanted to add a little bit more of a brace where the 2 seams met together underneath. And here's what I was talking about earlier. I mentioned this. I made the decision when I put the placemat down that I really didn't want this tray to be that long after all. So I tore the handle off before it was finished drying, and I scooched it up. So we're just going to cut that end off right there. We're going to make this a shorter tray. And I also thought it made the tray less flimsy too, because there is that center seam. It just creates more stability if you shorten it a little bit. And that's what I did. So now we're using a little bit of gray paint. I just took the black and white paint and kind of mixed it together, and it made a beautiful complementary edge for this tray. And now I'm using wood glue, and I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue just to tack it down so it stays in place. And we're going to glue this last handle down. I don't know about you guys, but I have finally come up with a temporary solution for ruining my clothes crafting. I went and got all those cheap, you know those men's t-shirts that are 100% cotton, totally comfortable, totally cool, cheap. I think a package of 6 for like $19.99. I just got a bunch of those, and that's what I'm crafting in now. I'm comfortable, I'm cool, and I don't worry if the paint splatters all over my clothes. In fact, I sometimes put it over my shirt that I'm wearing during the day. I just put the big, it's like my craft shirt. I just put it on and I don't have to worry. So, well, when I'm going to be dry brushing or using, you know, dark paints like black, I just put on that cotton shirt, and it's like an apron that's nice and cool. Anyway, let me know what tricks you guys have come up with. I do have aprons, but they don't always work out real well. Sometimes my sleeves get messy, so I just thought, what are you doing? Just buy some cheap t-shirts. You're a crafty person. Anyway, we're using Mod Podge to Mod Podge this down, and we're going to go ahead and seal it in with Mod Podge as well, because like I said, I am planning on using this. It's going to hopefully get quite a bit of use. I was going to put it on top of my ottoman, maybe put my coffee here during the day when I'm, you know, enjoying a warm cup of coffee, watching a movie. It's perfect, but I love this. It rivals something that I saw in Hobby Lobby not too long ago, and it's huge. When I'm done with it, it's huge. It's so beautiful. Came out better than what I thought. So I always get excited when that happens, but I'm using 5 of these little Dollar Tree shadow box houses, and I'm definitely going to use wood glue because this needs a strong permanent bond. So for those of you that don't know, wood glue bonds with wood at a molecular level with the molecules. So a lot of times when you try to pull your wood apart using wood glue, you'll take the wood with it. The wood will break. It's that strong. It's almost as good as nails as far as, or screws as far as I'm concerned. You can do amazing things with wood glue. And the DIYer's dream, they came out with hot wood glue a couple years ago, and it's wonderful. It holds just as strong, but I wanted the seams here to be really tight and fitted and look like one piece. Sometimes with the hot glue, you don't get that. If you move really quick and make it really thin, you can, but I didn't want to take any chances because I had a feeling, or at least I was hoping, this was going to come out really, really beautiful, and it did. And I just wanted to do it, you know, flawlessly from the beginning. Sometimes you don't want to take chances. So I'm using the Dollar Tree little clips here. I'm going to clip it till it dries, and now it's dry. I'm going to use apple barrel paint in the color Burnt Umber, and I'm going to give this baby one thick coat. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I finally got smart and bought a package of gray cotton shirts to craft in. Someone asked me, how do you craft using all those nice shirts? I keep seeing these really pretty sleeves. And I thought, well, I do ruin them. I ruin them. So I thought, I better, this is dumb. I better get some shirts that I can just craft in. So after 1 hour, after the burnt umber dries, you have to let it dry for 1 hour. You apply this crackle medium on, and I'm just going to do a medium thickness, one coat, and I am purposely avoiding the wood parts. So I'm just doing the inside part. Now I did turn this around on purpose. This is the back side. 1, the paint adheres better, and 2, the little grooves in the back make a natural place for it to hang on a nail on a wall. So it's going to be perfect for that. Plus those little window, I don't know why they do this to the window boxes. I mean, I can't think of a reason you would have so many little whiteboards all around like that. But anyway, I think they do it for the whiteboards. So now we're going to use chalk paint in the color Plaster. It's Waverly chalk paint. And it's because I wanted a thicker one coat paint for this, because when it starts cracking, I really wanted to see that contrast of the burnt umber underneath. So again, I'm trying to avoid the top of the wood. So when I do hit the wood, I do it almost in a dry brushing manner. And you know, you don't have to be too picky about this. This is one of those, well, it's supposed to be kind of distressed and antiqued. So it's one of those crafts that if you go over a little bit or make a mistake, it just looks better. I will say it's a one-time deal with going over the crackle medium. Don't go over it again. You'll lift it up, and you know, I lifted it up in one area, I did, and I just touched it with a little bit of paint. You can't notice it because it kind of did the same thing in an area where I didn't lift it up. So I think I got lucky, but definitely when you're painting, just paint it once and move on. The crackling happens pretty fast and it's nice and deep. I will say that I saw something not nearly as beautiful as this in Hobby Lobby going for $62. I spent $7 with a bunch of ugly plastic little shadow boxes from the Dollar Tree, and I just made a beautiful, gorgeous old wooden cross. For this project, I used a photo album. I used to have a cookbook that I lost during the move recently when I moved, and it was full of all of my favorite recipes that I collected over the years. I'm actually really upset about it, so I decided to treat myself and make a really awesome cookbook one. So what I do is I take index cards and I just write down all of my favorite recipes. Sometimes I tweak them, and that's where I keep my notes rather than having like a recipe box or something. I slide them in here. It keeps them nice and clean. I can wipe it because it's waterproof if I get food on, I don't get my cards all messy and stained. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to cover it with some really pretty material. So we're starting off with this fabric. It's like a farmhouse theme. I thought that was perfect for the kitchen because it always, farms always, to me, when I think farm, I think fresh food, fresh, wholesome food, whether it's fruits and vegetables or meats, eggs, whatever, fresh food. So I'm just wrapping it like a present. I'm kind of giving it a nice little hem around the edges so it doesn't fray, and then I'm literally wrapping it like you would a gift. And of course I have to make some adjustments, like around the spine right here. I do have to make some little slits so that I can fold the little flaps over, because obviously the pages of this photo album where they bind the book on the spine is in the way, so it allows me to kind of fold it down here where it's separate. You can see it right there where I made the slit. And there is also a little open area right there where you would put a photo in the front of this photo album, and I did want to preserve that because I had a cute idea and I thought that would give this little future cookbook even more character. So I'm just kind of tentatively measuring here and cutting out a little window. Now I was off just a little bit, and you can't notice it because of the way I finished the border off on this part, but I recommend that you actually finish wrapping your photo album or book or whatever you're doing up first. If it has one of those little openings in the front, finish wrapping it first where everything's already stretched and glued, and then make your cut for that little window. So I got lucky. I got by with it, but it would have been better if I had done it the other way. So I'm just going to literally tuck this material under the little area where, right there, you can see me doing it. I'm just wrapping it around the edges and tucking it under, because you can stick your fingers under there. There is some give, or the glue. I have a little spatula there for the glue. The glue spatula, you can also tuck that under there to help you push it. But you can see right there, my fingers go in just fine. And if you guys want the link to, or if you're interested in this photo album, I will go ahead and link it down below in my description box, just in case. I had a hard time finding it, actually. Well, I had a hard time finding one that had 4x6 slots for photos that would, fit an index card, and there were only 2 per page. I didn't want a huge one with 3 per page. I just wanted 2 because that's, for me, a nice size for, easy to store away in the kitchen. So for this part, I took the pre-cut little fake photo that was in there, and I'm just taking some of the Dollar Tree burlap, this really light color, which I think is so pretty, and I'm going to glue it on top of that. And now we're just going to give it a quick trim around the edge, and then I'm just sliding it down inside there, just like that. It's that simple. So you can see the little Farm Fresh, I'm cutting it right now, the Farm Fresh little coasters. Those come from the Dollar Tree in a package of 3. I'm just going to use one for this project, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it down like a medallion. I'm not going to use it as a coaster, obviously. I'm going to glue it down in the center of the burlap. Next, to finish this off, I thought it would be really pretty to use this decorative burlap ribbon. I think it's twine actually. It's not burlap, it's twine. This decorative twine ribbon from Dollar Tree. Also, it comes in a set of 3, and you can find it. It's funny because each Dollar Tree I go to stores this in different areas. I found this over where the rocks were and the shells were one year, and then another year I found it over where they had the ribbon, which in my Dollar Tree varies. So you just kind of have to look in both places, but it's usually on a hook because it's in a little flat package, and it has 3 choices. So I love it. I think it's great for just extra decorative touches. I think it works out great. So we're just going to go around the edge here and make a cute little border. And you'll see here as I'm going, I'm kind of flipping the ribbon on the corners over. I'm going to do it right here. See that? See how I bend it over? That gives it a nice corner, little fold right there. You kind of have to glue it down underneath and on top as well. You'll see I do it right there so that that little corner holds, but I think it finishes it off nicely. And by the way, the new pink spatula that I am using is like the original one that I was using when I started this little trend for spatulas for hot glue so you don't burn your finger, from the Dollar Tree. You can find the pink one. It's a lot firmer. The glue comes off of it right away easily. It just releases and peels off in a big piece. That's what the original one from Dollar Tree did. They have cheapened them considerably in the last 24 months. I'm really disappointed, so look for the pink one. All right, you guys, we're all done. I love this. For this project, I asked my daughter to send me some of her baby formula cans because I knew it would be much easier to work with since they're made out of cardboard for the look that we're going to go for today. So the first thing I did was remove the bottom with a can opener, and then you can see that I'm starting to use my hands just to press it down. I'm going to go ahead and remove the paper. See how it's like a cardboard there? It's got a perfect blank slate for craft pictures or anything you want to put on it. I love these containers. If you can think of any other containers like this that are cardboard, I think like hot cocoa is cardboard like this. Coffee sometimes comes in this. It's way, way easier to make these little pocket cans. That's what we're doing today. And I did take some needle nose pliers and some regular pliers too, just to squeeze the end down. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it looks closed. And see that little piece of paper sticking up? If that happens to you, no big deal. Just wait for the paint to dry and you can shave it off with a utility knife or a craft knife. Here's a free printable. I went ahead and printed it up on tissue paper. The printable will be down below in my description box. I love using the tissue paper method for transfers because it allows you to use really beautiful imagery that's detailed, and it looks almost like it's painted on because the tissue paper is transparent. So I am leaving it on the cardstock so you can see what I did here. I just used masking tape. I taped the tissue paper down on the cardstock, put it through my printer, the right side facing up so that it will print down on the tissue paper, and that's it. It's that easy. I cut it out, and now I'm using a glue stick from the Dollar Tree to apply it to the front of my craft. I'm taking the Dollar Tree cuticle clippers and just twisting them back and forth to put some holes on the side. Super easy to do, easier than a can. And the other thing I really like about the cardboard is that you can get it into a nice graduated pocket so it looks more like a pocket. The can pockets that I've been seeing on Pinterest, some of them, not all of them, but when they pound the bottom, the top is too round and bulky and it looks a little bit distorted. So you don't get that so much with these because obviously they're easier to smash down. So I'm just taking a little bit of the antique wax and I'm dry brushing the front and the back. Now comes time to decorate these. These are so much fun to decorate. I have to be honest, I actually felt like making 50 of these and I couldn't because I didn't have time, but I think these are so cool. So I'm taking some Hobby Lobby ribbon that I got 50% off, and I'm just going to trim the edge of this with the little lace ribbon. It's not really lace. I don't know what you call that. It was in the lace section, but it's almost like a crochet cord with designs, or I'm not sure. It's more like a somewhere between like a crochet and lace, but the Dollar Tree lace ribbon would have worked beautifully too. I just didn't have any. And now I'm using some of this green raffia. I got a great deal on Amazon. Again, the link is down below in my description box if you're interested. It comes in green, red, and then that nice neutral kind of brownish color, tan color, and it's so strong and thick and really kind of performs more like ribbon than it does raffia. It doesn't break. I'm really pleased with it, and it happened to be like one of the cheaper ones to choose from. So if you're interested, you can go check it out. So I take and cut 9 strands in the same length, and then I grouped 3 of them together so they're a little thicker, and I went ahead and taped it onto my table, and then I braided it all the way down to make a cord. And we're going to use this to hang this little pocket here. I'm just pushing it through the holes from the inside, and I decided to leave the green like little tassel out on the edge to add to the look. I just thought it looked so cute when I was done, and I just tie a knot on the outside of those tassels so that they don't come out. And I am going to use a little hot glue to secure them down because I don't want them sticking straight out to the side. I want them hanging down like kind of like naturally like a tassel would if it was made out of yarn or twine. So I glued them down, and then I put a little paper towel in there to fill it up just a little bit, and now I added some Spanish moss on top. And then I'm just going to start adding florals, you guys. It's that simple. These are Dollar Tree roses. They're so beautiful. The greenery right there, I also found at the Dollar Tree. Kudos to them, because I think that greenery is prettier than the one you see, the boxwood on the side that you see me putting in there. I mean, it's very pretty, but I got that one on Amazon. Again, the link is down below. But I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up with different florals. The neat thing about these too is you can make them seasonal. You can change the print. You can use seasonal florals. Really, really fun. Again, this is some ribbon from Hobby Lobby, 50% off. I made a cute little bow with 2 of them, but we're all done, and I absolutely love this. For this project, I glued my towering blocks in these formations. So first I made the square, and I kind of just went around and made an L. I don't know if you can tell. Again, this is hard to describe, so I'm just going to leave this picture here for a while so that you can see what I did. You put the towering block in the corner, then you put one down at the bottom like a weird shaped L, and you do this exact same thing on the opposite side until you just make little squares. And then I glued all those squares on top of each other, so there's 4 of them all together. I'm going to make 6 of them all together. So once I made this row of 4, I'm going to glue 2 of them together, and then I'm going to leave 2 of them single. If you see that little pink flowered thing peeking out too, that's my crafting apron. I finally got smart and started wearing an apron, you guys. I started throwing away so many shirts from glue on it and paint on it, and I finally went, you know, what are you doing? Just put something on. So my daughter actually gave me one of her little aprons that she had. I think when she cooked Thanksgiving dinner once, she bought these 2 cute aprons with these little flowers on. She gave me one for crafting. I think it's so cute. So I'm wearing an apron. So you probably see the little pink flowers peek out every now and again when I'm crafting, but boy, you guys, if you craft aprons, like the cloth aprons are great. You can just wipe your hands straight on them and throw them in the laundry when you're done, and it saves a lot of nice shirts. And I'm really using those cuticle clippers. I don't know if you noticed that, because with the wood glue, when it's wood hot glue, you have to move really fast before it dries and rip it off, or you cannot get it off, and it will make it all lumpy, and then your little blocks won't go together very well. So now I'm going to glue the sides on, and I am not making a lantern. For those of you that thought I was, I'm not going to do the even sides. I actually decided to do pillars. I actually am going to make another one of these. Well, by the time this video comes out, I would have made another one, and I'm going to give it to my neighbor because she has her home like an island decor. She uses a lot of gourds. There's like, I don't know what they call it. I think it's the Day of the Dead or whatever. She has like those little skeleton people but they look really cute. They're all dressed in these cute little costumes, a lot of bamboo in her home. And I just thought it fit perfect in her decor theme. She will probably put it I'm guessing at the bottom of her, well, I'm envisioning it at the bottom of her fireplace on either side, and she can put a plant on top of it, a candle, some beads, whatever, you know, she wants. This is kind of like a riser, I guess, in a way, because it's like a mini pillar. But I think it's perfect for that kind of decor in particular. If you do coastal decor, anything, well, I think these look a little bit like bamboo. So anything that, you know, coastal decor themes, any kind of island theme, and I think modern decor definitely too. This is perfect for that. You can make some really fancy schmancy stuff with these little towering blocks. But I end up doing a row of 8 of the towering blocks, right? And then I glue 3 of those together. You can see it right there to create the top and the bottom of this pillar. And I went ahead, I'm using one of those Dollar Tree signs again. I love them, love them, love them. Look at that. I used to have to do paint sticks to make like a shiplap look, or we'd have to score the board. Dollar Tree has just brought out so many things to make it so much easier for crafters. It's all ready to go. So I cut the board, and I actually cut on the other side a little bit of too. You can see it on the left hand side. I kind of made it a little bit rough too on the edge because I wanted it to match. I didn't catch that on film, sorry about that, or I did and I didn't put it in here. I caught it on film, but I didn't put it in this video. And all I'm doing now is just trimming this little mat down to fit this sign. I love ticking stripe. That's what we have on the edge there. And I thought, I don't know exactly where I'm going to do with that ticking stripe, but I'm going to cut it and keep it. We're going to get it on this sign. And I decided to put it on the ends just like that in the end there. And I think it complemented it so much and kept that whole country look, because ticking stripe is so country. It's so farmy. Farmy, is that a word? I don't know, but it's just so perfect again for fall, or if you do farmhouse decor, it's perfect. So I'm taking a little bit of the white paint again. We're going to dry brush this. That's the only thing about these signs, is they are very stock, I guess. I mean, they don't do anything with them. They're a blank slate for you, and I like to usually dry brush them a little bit because otherwise they don't look as much like real wood. So you either can paint them solid because the paint covers it, you don't know what's going on under there, that it's an MDF board, or you can dry brush it. That makes it look nicer too, but just get something on there to make them look a little bit more expensive, I guess. Now I'm taking a glue stick again. This extra strength glue stick worked like a charm. It held these vinyl mats. I wasn't sure whether or not it was going to, because vinyl is really slippery, but it held them beautifully. So that is an option. I cannot vouch for a regular glue stick. I have a feeling it would work, but you'd have to be very generous. But the extra strength one from Walmart definitely works, and I think it runs about $5 for a large one. So I'm just putting that down, and I'm going to go ahead and put the ticking stripe on either side. So now I'm using a black furniture marker. You find them in a set of 3 at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going around the edge of that placemat a little bit, and I'm not keeping the line totally straight. I want it to look a little bit rustic and, you know, distressed, I guess, and antiqued. And the final step to make this come together so that it is cohesive is to put a little bit of dry brushing on the top of the vinyl mat. And I think this sign came out so nice. It is perfect for an entry table, a console table, or a shelf. This next one's fun, really easy, and so high-end looking. I found these little signs. I think they're signs at the Dollar Tree. They're not, I'm going to make coasters, but I don't think these are coasters. And what I thought would be fun is to make a reversible coaster. So have one for like summer, and then this one to me kind of looks more like a fall, maybe Christmas, because it looks like it might be snow, or it looks like it looks a little snowy to me, or like cotton, those, you know, that cotton look that cotton has. It just has that look to me with the colors, the white and the brown. That's perfect for fall and perfect for the Christmas season as well, or even maybe not Christmas, because I always like to go all out and do Christmas stuff, but maybe New Year's, the winter. So I thought, well, this would be neat if we could do a summer one. So I went with a little bit of a coastal look with this next choice of vinyl mats here, and I'm just going to use Mod Podge to glue it down. I mean, I literally just trace these out. It's super straightforward. This is an easy DIY, and it would make a great gift too for like Mother's Day or a friend, or just if you go to a party instead of bringing a bottle of wine or something, or an hors d'oeuvre. This would be a fun thing to bring as a house gift. But I just went ahead and glued it down with Mod Podge, let it dry. When it was dry, I trimmed off any excess that was over the edge, and that was it. We had these great little reversible coasters that look totally high end, and they are pennies on the dollar and easy to make. For this project, you're going to need some kind of cutting board shape. I grabbed this during Easter time, and I'm just taking off the top board right there. And I was surprised too. I thought the little tacks in the corner there, the thumbtacks, I thought those were going to be pointy like real tacks, but it turns out they are just the top of them glued on there. There is no actual sharp edge. I'll show you right here. See? Get it into focus there, Holly. There you go. There's just glue there. So maybe I'm guessing the Dollar Tree maybe did that for safety reasons, so they don't have something sharp in case they fall off. Yes, that's probably why they did it actually. So here I just sprayed some water on the top of this, and within seconds it was just rolling off. It was super easy, and I'm using the little metal spatula that comes with like their vinyl. I think it's meant for Cricut type or just cutting machine projects, but that works really great for scraping things off. And we're choosing the buffalo check plaid fabric this time at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut it out to match the size of my cutting board, and then I'm going to go ahead and use Mod Podge to glue it down. Pretty much for all of these projects, I have to use Mod Podge because fabric is thicker than paper or tissue paper, and glue sticks, I mean, I guess you could probably glue it down with a glue stick if it was a flat surface, but you still would probably have to seal it with Mod Podge to get it to stay for the long haul. It would be challenging to do it just with a glue stick. So I'm just being very generous with the Mod Podge and gluing it down, and now I'm trimming it. So if you can't find these boards because they were there for Easter, it's okay. The little square piece on the front is just more MDF board. So you can get a little rectangle Dollar Tree sign and use it to cut up for different projects. And you can just cut a piece of it off of that and then glue it on the front here. And again, I'm using tons of Mod Podge, being really, really, really generous and well saturated with Mod Podge so it stays on. Now this is that little square piece I was just talking about. It's dry now because remember I had sprayed it down with water to remove the paper. So I'm just giving it a little sand to create a nice smooth surface. I will say that it did scrape off all the way to the shiny part of the MDF board. So it was definitely like painting more on a plastic. It was nice. It was a nice smooth surface, so I was happy about that. And I'm using a little bit of Apple Barrel white paint. I'm giving it one thick coat, and when it dries, I have this stencil from the Dollar Tree. It's so cute. It says Farm Fresh, and I'm just going to use a sponge brush. I don't have a little stenciler sponge. I should get one, but I'm just using that, and I'm going to sponge it on. Now, I don't care if this is super clean and the edges are perfect because, you know, I'm okay with rustic stuff. But some people like that really clean, crisp look, which is a pretty look too. And if you do want that, just go ahead and stencil it with white paint first, let it dry a little bit, and then stencil it with black paint, and that will prevent any bleeding underneath. So now it's bone dry. I'm taking and cutting off the edges and using the little utility craft knife there. It's not a utility knife, I think it's a craft knife from the Dollar Tree. And I'm cutting around the edge to make it nice and clean. And I'm just gonna make a pretty bow for this. I just make a bow with flowers. I do have a bow video if you want to see how I make my bows. It's linked down below in my description box, and it is time stamped, so it will take you to a bow. If you want to go ahead and see, this is just a 2-loop bow, and we're all done. I think this is so cute. For this project, I'm using 2 of the Dollar Tree trucks, and I'm going to paint them both white on one side. If you don't have this truck, you can go ahead and find this pattern online and cut it out using thick cardboard. Next, you'll need a crate, but you don't actually have to buy a Dollar Tree crate. I did, and I cut it down as I was showing you there, and I'm just going to glue it in between. But you can certainly take craft sticks. I have plenty of videos on how to DIY little wood crates using craft sticks for pennies on the dollar. I will leave the links down below in my description box. But I had the crates right in front of me when I grabbed these Dollar Tree trucks, so I decided, I'm just going to do that for the purpose of this tutorial. The next thing you're going to do is get some thick cardboard and cut out the width and shape as you see me doing here for the front of this truck. So I did take and roll that around a round object, like I think actually mine was, it was a thick marker that I used, and I just rolled it to shape it a little bit. And then after it's glued on, you can take a knife, a craft knife, whatever you need to do just to trim it to make sure it's nice and even. Even is really important here. For realism, it's really important that you take your time and you do everything nice and even. So I'm just in the process of measuring and cutting. I decided for this truck to make it look a little bit more high end, I was going to put a front part like that at the top. So I'm just gluing that on. Next, I decided that craft stick in the front was a little bit too tall, so I cut a craft stick in half, or a little less than half, and I'm using that to glue on the front. I'm using these Dollar Tree napkins and some Mod Podge, and I'm mixing a little bit of water in with my Mod Podge, just a little bit to make it so that it's a little bit more watery. You don't want it too watery, but you don't want it thick and globby either. Try and get it where it's nice and fluid and easy to work with, because we're going to be gluing all of these little tissue papers all over the cardboard part. So this is kind of like paper mache. You're going to go ahead and glue all the tissue paper down all over the cardboard pieces to make them come together again to look more cohesive. As I was working with this, I realized we have to have a front bumper, so I went ahead and cut a little bit more cardboard out and put it on with some glue. You would want to do this right away with that piece of cardboard. I think at the time I thought it wouldn't bend enough, but really if you curl your cardboard enough and soften it up and make it pliable, you absolutely can shove it down in that little groove area there, and it's going to be easier just to keep the whole piece as one single piece rather than have 2 separate ones. But if you don't do it, if you want to do it the way I did it, it works just fine too. And that's what it should look like when you're all done. We're just going to set this aside to let it dry. This is the next day and it's dry, and I didn't have any spackling on hand when I was filming this, so I substituted a little bit of caulking with acrylic craft paint. You can use joint compound, you can use wood filler even, you can use spackling, and you can certainly use the caulking. All of it works for this part. The purpose of what I'm doing now is just to kind of cover all of the paper mache part to make it a little bit more even. We're beginning the process of making the surface even here. So after that was dry, I went ahead and used spackling, and I do mix my spackling with a little bit of water, sometimes a little bit of paint, either one works, just to make it a little bit more fluid and less dry so that it doesn't fall apart. See how it's crumbly inside the bucket there? That's really hard to work with when you're trying to do a craft. So you want to get this the consistency of a frosting. That just makes it so much easier. For this craft for sure, it makes it so much easier. So as you can see, I'm using a craft stick to put it down, and then I'm dipping my paintbrush in a little bit of water and I'm smoothing the surface. Now my goal was to make this truck look like a wood one, so for me it was totally okay to have some wood grain. In fact, that was desirable. If you don't want it to look that way, you would just have to work it a little bit more with some water. So that's the next day after it's dry. I had a little mistake. I'm showing you how I just filled it in real quick, let it dry, and then I take a nail file and gently start sanding any areas that are too high. You know, now I'm just trying to even it out. But here's the big one, and this is what adds a lot of realism. When you're filing, you want to go around your tires like this, because it's going to give the truck a groove right there, and that's going to create a 3D look around your tire, and it's just going to look really awesome when you're all done. Just trust me on that. So you do want to go over your tire a little bit. It's kind of unavoidable, but see that groove right there? I'm going to show it to you in more detail. That's really right there. That's really what you want on all 4 tires, because again, just adds more realism. So I'm showing you here how I'm gently going over the lines here. I'm really aiming for any, and gentle. Gentle is the key word. I'm really aiming for any areas that are too lumpy. I'm just trying to make everything look nice and smooth like a piece of wood. For this part, I used a baby wipe, but you could certainly use a wet paper towel for this, or a wet tissue. You're just wiping off the excess dust from sanding. And now I'm giving it 1 coat of acrylic paint. You can use acrylic paint, you can use chalk paint, you can use latex paint, any white paint. You can even use primer. Any white paint will work. And if you don't want a white truck, you can make it red if you want. You can make it brown, and you can make it whatever color truck you want. I wanted mine to be white. I thought it would go with all the seasons a little bit easier. And now I'm going to take the color from Apple Barrel Paint called Territorial Beige, and I'm just doing a quick dry brush over the truck. This is going to absolutely hide any imperfections that I couldn't remove by lightly filing and sanding, and it's also going to make it look more like wood. So you're going to see that I go ahead and do a layer of the Territorial Beige, and then after that dries, I'm going to go over it with white paint to tone it down a little bit, again making everything kind of come together a little bit more cohesive so it looks like a truck. And I paint a layer of, I dry brush white paint over the Territorial Beige, and then I go in there with Territorial Beige again, and I make sure I hit the parts that are important and accentuate them, like the edge of the window, the edge of the hood, and definitely, watch this you guys, around the edge of that tire. So you're going to be painting these tires black, so you absolutely don't worry about getting any brown paint on a tire. It's no big deal. You need that realism with the shadow, because these are the areas a truck that's driving through the countryside or farmer, or even, you see this with cars on the road in a city, they tend to get dirty in those areas. Next, I'm just applying the antique wax with a baby wipe on the back there where the truck is supposed to be wood. This is something I've always wanted to do. As you saw, I made one for free with trash. I always wanted to take and see what I could do with the Dollar Tree trucks. I've seen them with like craft sticks all along the top and stuff, and it just wasn't hitting the mark for me. They were cute, but I really wanted it to look like a truck. I think I scored on this one. It looks really cute in real life. Let me know what you guys think. Now, this is why I said it's not important if you get brown there, because you're going to paint it with black. But here's the wood slices. Now, if you can't find these at your Dollar Tree for their tires here, what would look totally cute is just go outside to good old Mother Nature, find a branch, and cut that really thin, and you can use that in the center too. That would add such a cute rustic touch to the truck. And here's my free printable, Humble Farms today, you guys. And you can find that down below in my description box. I apply it with a glue stick, and I seal this outside with this Mod Podge matte clear acrylic sealer. Now, any clear varnish will work. You can get the cheapest one you can find at Home Depot or Lowe's. This is what I'm using, and I'm just favoring it at the moment. And then I just bring it in the next day and start putting flowers in the back, and I think it came up so cute. I would love to know what you guys think. I love this. This is some chicken wire that I found at the Dollar Tree. I don't know if it's supposed to be real chicken wire or like cheap chicken wire, or it was over where the plant pots are, so it's possibly for your garden to cover up and protect your fruits from little critters. But I'm using it today to make a super cute DIY. So I'm just going to kind of pick a size that I want and bend it in half, and then use my wire cutters to cut it straight across. And then I'm going to go ahead and take something big. So this is like a plastic vase that I found at the Dollar Tree, but you could use a box, you could use a big, huge like plastic container, anything that kind of helps you keep the chicken wire open, because you're going to need to kind of spin it and twirl it in like I am on either end. And I'm also going to be taking the bottom corners and kind of rolling them so that they look round, almost like in a purse shape. I'm actually using the wire that came with this chicken wire. It's what wrapped it up. It's a pretty generous piece, and I just cut it in different sections, and I put, I twisted one down at the bottom, in the middle, and at the top. You can also use the actual chicken wire, like the little ends, to twist it around if you want to as well. I think that would hold it. I just did it to be extra careful so that it wouldn't fall apart. And you just have to be patient and keep working with this. So once I had it in a pretty good shape, I took the plastic container out and started bending it in the opposite direction so that it wouldn't curl in on itself. And I just continually shape this, move this, bend this. I did it without gloves. It's not too bad because it's not real chicken wire, but you might want to use gloves if you want to be a little bit rougher with it. And now I'm taking some of the Dollar Tree nautical rope, and I just looped it through and then glued it together like this. And then I took some of the same nautical rope, but I took it apart because it comes apart in a whole bunch of different strands. But I just kind of, right there, I just kind of took, see how there's multiple strands? I just kind of took that thickness. It almost looks like there's 3 strands that you can pull apart, but actually there's tons of strands in there depending on how tiny you want to go. So I just kind of took the chunk that looked like one of the 3, and I spun it around the top of that nautical rope to cover it, and then I'm going to glue it. And I did that on both sides to make little handles. Now I'm going to use some of the Spanish moss, like a huge amount of it. And I'm going to shove it in there. That absolutely helps hold it open at that point. And then any little rough edges like this at the top, right there, I'm going to clip them down as far down as I can to make them nice and smooth. And I'll end up bending those little top pieces over as well, just so it's not so pokey, so you don't get poked. That's just to finish it off a little bit. And then you just tuck in your favorite florals. That's it. I decided to use some white roses from the Dollar Tree, and I'm not sure what that greenery is. I think it's supposed to be eucalyptus actually from the Dollar Tree, and a little bit of the boxwood, just different greenery to make it look pretty. And you end up with this beautiful, almost like purse. It's a floral purse, like a floral garden. It looks absolutely gorgeous. For this DIY, I'm using 2 glass bowls from the Dollar Tree, and that candlestick is actually from the Dollar Tree too. I got that when it very first opened up in my area. They don't carry the tall candlesticks anymore, and if you can't find that, go ahead and use 2 small ones and glue them upside down onto each other. Now for this DIY, I definitely want it to stay put, and I chose to glue the candlestick upside down. So I'm using E6000 for a super strong hold on this, and I do let it dry overnight before I go out and spray paint it. So I don't know about you all, but when these things are not centered, they drive me nuts. I'm going to stand up in a minute so I don't get my head in the camera, and you can see me making sure that it's centered. But when it dries overnight, I take it outside and I give it a coat of this Rust-Oleum chalk paint in chiffon cream, really beautiful color, and I spray paint it upside down. So I'm showing you here when I'm rubbing my hand that there's no paint inside the bowls. Now the problem I ran into, I didn't want to take a chance. I want it to be versatile in my kitchen, and if I want to store some oranges down at the bottom level or some bananas, I didn't want to worry about any toxicity issues. Even, I still would stick with the thick skinned fruit at the bottom just to be, sure. But because of that, I chose to do the center in a non-toxic acrylic paint. So this is the color Antique Parchment from Apple Barrel Paint It is a non-toxic acrylic paint, so it will be fine for the food to lean against. I'm not even going to seal the center because I don't want to have to worry. If you want, you can look into different sealants that are food safe. There's a lot of information online about that. I do end up having to add a little bit of white to this paint just to get a perfect match, because when it dries it goes a little dark. But the edging in the Dollar Tree bowls in the glass is absolutely gorgeous. It is so high end and it is so perfect for cottagecore DIY home decor. For this DIY, I used some scrap wood, but you could easily use layers of cardboard for this particular DIY. You're going to need some foil. The first thing that I did was trace out the shape of a leaf. Now, I thought this looked kind of like a palm leaf, but it actually could be any leaf. But this is a craft that gives you a lot of opportunity to be extremely creative and have fun. For example, if you were doing a coastal decor theme, you could easily draw a shell and change up your colors to blues and aquamarines. There's a lot of opportunity here for variety, so just have fun with it. After you're done drawing whatever shape you choose, take your hot glue and trace those patterns in pencil. It's like a template, I guess. Trace your template with hot glue like you see me doing here. I'm just going to cover all of those pencil marks now with hot glue. This doesn't have to be perfect either. In fact, that's kind of the name of the game here. This is a very textured craft, so don't stress if you've got like bubbles or lumps in your hot glue. You're not going to see it at all. Shout out to Casey at Coffee with My Sunshine. She did not give herself enough credit. It was absolutely gorgeous and I could not wait to try it. So she said just to use regular glue, and it is just fine. I'm using Dollar Tree glue, in fact, Dollar Tree school glue. And you can see I'm just covering up the wood with the glue. And I'm kind of, when I'm gluing the foil down, pressing gently around where I do the hot glue to make sure that design pops. So don't press too hard because you don't want to totally flatten out your foil, but at the same time, you definitely want those designs to, pop out for the next step when everything's dry. So this is kind of like a paper mache craft, only instead of gluing little pieces of paper down, you're doing it with foil. And you can see there I'm putting glue on top of the foil if I have to overlap. So just make sure that you're generous with your glue. Use lots of glue. You're going to need it on the sides, on the top, anywhere there isn't any glue, where the foil meets the foil, everywhere. And most importantly, have fun. So you're going to see me here in a minute use a little square. There I go. And I'm crinkling it up this way. I'm kind of crunching it. That turns out to be a much better way to do it. The foil doesn't get as tight, I guess. It doesn't get knotted up. It's really hard to undo if you do it in big pieces. So keep it smaller and just go about covering the entire piece of wood. Now, I was almost going to use cardboard. I just didn't have enough right now, but you could easily glue about 4 sheets of cardboard together, or 5, or make it as thick as you want. Because the sides are covered, nobody's going to know what that canvas is under there. So this is a great craft for recycling those Amazon boxes that you guys were asking me what you could do with. So I decided to take a final layer of Mod Podge and put it on the top just to make sure all of those foil pieces stick down, because I don't want them getting loose. She didn't do this. I don't think you have to. I was just a little worried because I'm gifting this to somebody, so I didn't want them to come up. The next step is to take a sponge, a regular sponge. I found that kind of holds more paint and it gets down in the grooves of the foil better. And I'm using the color Territorial Beige here from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm just covering the whole thing. Now, I'm doing a color blend on this piece. I decided to do that. You don't have to. I just wanted to do kind of Casey did 2 different crafts, so I wanted to do both of them in one, if that makes sense. I wanted to combine it because I liked the looks of both and I couldn't decide. So in the end I thought, well, I'm just going to do both. So now I'm taking the color Nutmeg from Apple Barrel and I'm putting that on the top. And this is a color called Terracotta. It's from another company. They don't even make that paint anymore, but you can use whatever browns you want. You could see there how I took my paintbrush and turned it sideways and kind of streaked the paint into the other paint. I believe Casey left hers dry. I wanted mine to blend a little more, so I left mine wet. I don't think it matters. I think if it's dry, you'll have a more pronounced color blend. If it's wet, you'll have more of a muted blending effect between the colors, which is what I was going for. And also, don't worry if a little bit of foil is showing, because at the end, when you're done with all your color blending and everything's finished, the foil doesn't show anymore. So you saw me take khaki there from Apple Barrel paint and tap the top of that leaf just to bring out the design. And I didn't want it to be so light. Around, I guess, towards the edges there, you can see that I'm touching it up and covering that khaki up just a little bit. And you just use the original colors. Some of them dry even darker because it's like 2 layers of paint, and it just gives it more texture and more dimension. It is an absolutely gorgeous craft. I hope the camera does it justice. It looks almost like leather, so high-end looking. I absolutely love this. For this one, I'm using more of the same vinyl placemats that I did for the coasters, because I actually thought this might be a nice little set on a table or in a bathroom, wherever you want to put it. And I just took one of the 8x10 Dollar Tree frames, took the glass out, painted them white, like dry brushed them. Sorry I didn't include that in here. I just figured you guys would know what that is. And for whatever reason, when I downloaded all of my videos off of my camera, that one's on my camera, but my computer wouldn't recognize it, so I didn't get to include it. But it's not going to interfere with the tutorial. I literally just took the glass out of an 8x10 frame and painted the frame. So I went ahead and cut the placemat down to put it inside the frame, and I wanted to we're making a tier tray. I wanted to make a different tier tray because we all have seen so many tier trays. I didn't want to do something that was totally redundant for you guys and repetitive. And I thought, why not do something? Oh, I wanted to show you. That's the hot glue from Surebonder. It's supposed to hold glass, and it did. It was really good. So I just went ahead and used the hot glue. And I'm filling these up with these little gems here because I'm kind of doing a coastal theme. We've all been seeing all the coastal stuff in Dollar Tree this summer. This would even be a boho theme too, but I just wanted to do a unique, different kind of tier tray for something different, so you would have something different in your home and some different ideas. And I thought that this hit the bill. It came up super cute. But I could definitely picture this in a bathroom. If you're into coastal, perfect. I found these nice sized terracotta pots at Dollar Tree in one of my shop with me videos, and I'm choosing this sunflower material from the Dollar Tree as well. And we're going to go ahead and cover these pots. Now for this craft, you need a lot of Mod Podge. You do, especially if you're going to put it in a window and it's going to have the sun on it. But be generous with your Mod Podge, and it is cheaper to get Mod Podge in those little bottles at the Dollar Tree than it is to buy a bigger bottle at Walmart, just so you know. So that's, it's kind of nice too, because it doesn't have time to glue and get really hard around the lid. When you use the little ones, you just kind of use it as you need it. So it's a nice way to store it. It's not good environmentally, I'm sure, because there's more packaging, but it is, it does save money and it is convenient. So with this material, I did end up having to go a little bit sideways because this is a cylinder shape. It's not totally perfectly symmetrical, it goes at an angle. So in order to get the material to lay flat without, see how I'm trying to make it go straight and I'm getting wrinkles, I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. You do have to cut it a little wider than your plant pot if you do this DIY, because you are going to need to go sideways if you don't want wrinkles in your fabric. And now I'm just trimming off the bottom, and you're going to see I kind of fold it back there to see where that line is, and I cut it down at an angle there so that the seams meet together again at the angle. It's fine, it looks good, at least it's flat, and I apply more Mod Podge on the top to finish this off. Love that craft knife from Dollar Tree too. They've stepped up their game. I bought it a year ago or 2 years ago. I bought it when it first came out and the blade kept falling out. It was driving me nuts, but they've made some changes and the blades do not come out now. So it's a really nice craft knife to work with when you consider the price, and it's super sharp. So really pleased with that. Just trim off the bottom. I did tuck it around the edges, as you can see there inside the pot. And now we're just filling it with some greenery, and that's it. That's pretty much just DIY, and it looks so fresh and summery. I love this. This is a fun one. I'm going to use 4 of these little shadow boxes. I'm using a blow dryer to remove the sticker. It comes off really super easy. And I'm going to cover them all in paper. And I had some wooden roses left over from Valentine's Day, and they have raw wood on the back. So that's what I end up decorating these with. I have a pinstripe material right there, and I'm leaving everything raw wood because I'm trying to make this an all year round decor piece. It's going to be by my desk. It's going to be another thing that I can use for my mail, to put like paper on my desk upwards and out of my way instead of it just laying on the desk. But I actually thought these were kind of quirky and cool, like for Christmas. You could make this same thing and make these either churches, or put a vintage Santa on each one of these sides, or a gingerbread house. But you could also leave these as chalkboards, glue them all together into a nice little container and store your utensils there, and then have the actual chalkboards to write the day's recipes on, or notes that you need to remember. There's all kinds of possibilities with this, but I actually thought this would make a really fun centerpiece for Christmas too, depending on what you put on it. I'm just sealing this in with some Mod Podge spray there, and I'm going to stage it with some boxwood, but again, it's going to be used for mail upstairs by my desk, but I think it came out pretty cute. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up, comment, share my video. It really does help me here on YouTube, and I appreciate it more than I can say. And as always, until the next one, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.